G'day guys, how are we going? Well, this week's question for Batesy's Q&A comes from Aaron. Now, Aaron's asked, how did you get into four-wheel driving and what sort of four-wheel drives have you owned? Well, this is a great question, mate, but I'm going to have to go back a few years to really answer this one properly because I've only been four-wheel driving since probably about 2003, 2006, but the passion for the bush that got me into four-wheel driving goes a long way back, further than that. So we'll start from there and then we'll work up to where we are today with the Mighty Patrol. Well, my interest for the Australian bush, it stems back many years, beginning at the young age of 8, where I started out in the scouting movement. And little to know back then just where this amazing journey in life was going to take me. And as I say, I started out just as a little fella in the Cubs, and they were finnicking. They were great years, great way to get started in life, messing around a little bit in the bush. So I spent a couple of years in there, and then from there I stepped up into the scouting movement, and that's when things really stepped up to doing a lot of hiking, exploring, lots of overnight stays, particularly out here in the mighty Victorian High Country. And then after those years, I went into the Venturers and spent about sort of 2 or 3 years in there, and that took me up to probably about the age of 17. And those years, fair income, things really ramped up on the places we hiked into, how many days and nights we'd stay out there, did a lot of night hikes and all that sort of stuff. Absolutely fantastic years. We even spent a couple of weeks over hiking around Cradle Mountain in Tasmania. I'm talking going back in sort of the mid to late 70s, but predominantly most of my time in exploring has been here in the Victorian High Country, and it's during those years where I really got this grounding for this place, this huge amount of respect for it, and never ever take this place for granted. I've seen it change at the drop of a hat, so I've experienced a lot of it back in those days. So this is just an amazing place to explore. And then after that, I moved into, did about sort of 5 or 6 years, cattle stud farms, where I was breaking cattle in for country and royal shows. And those years I spent probably about 3 or 4 years down on the Mornington Peninsula, been a Frankston boy, so I did a lot of working on farms and that around sort of the peninsula area. And then the last place I worked on was up in Texas, in Queensland. Yep, all Australia, we've got a Texas right here in Queensland, and it's based in Queensland, just over the New South Wales border into Queensland. And I spent a couple of years up there working with some pretty crazy cattle, but geez, I had a stack of fun up there. And then after that, once that finished, I then came back to Melbourne, spent the next 25, 30 odd years in the building trade, and they were great years too, and still never ever lost that passion for the get out and explore and do a bit of hiking around the bush. And it wasn't until about 1998 where I bought my first four-wheel drive, and yeah, it was a GU Patrol, not this one, but a GU Patrol I bought back in 1998. Did a little bit of exploring with that one, not a great deal, but just sort of starting to dabble in it and get back into it again. And then in 2003, I bought a D22 dual cab Navara, the 3 litre model, and that was a fantastic vehicle, and I had that for a couple of years after doing a little bit of driving around in that. And then in 2006, I just loved the D22 so much, so I just bought another one, and it was the green one that I bought, where I really started to deck it out, put a lot of aftermarket accessories on it, and yeah, really started to explore the high country and start driving through those areas that I once hiked as a young fella back in the scouting movement. And then I had that for 3 years, and then in 2009 along came the Mighty Patrol, and I've had that ever since. And this thing, fair income, has been absolutely fantastic. The lifestyle that not only this but any four-wheel drive gives you to get out here and explore this amazing bush, fair income, you're crazy not to have one of these. It just opens up a whole new doors and new respect for the mighty high country and anywhere in the great Australian bush. Because look, I want to start doing some exploring outside here as well. I'd like to do some more Central Australia and around Australia, so that will be coming up here certainly in the coming years. But for the moment, stick with Mighty Patrol, do a lot more down here because there's a lot I haven't seen yet, as much as I've seen a lot of it. But so that's where I got started, mate. It started way back in the young days as a young fella about the age of 8, went through Cub Scouts and all the rest of it, got that passion, that grounding for the Australian bush, and well, now here I am all these years later, still doing the same thing, but mainly driving over that same country that I used to hike over. Absolutely fantastic years. So there you go, guys. That's how I got started into four-wheel driving. Absolutely love it with a passion. So there you go, Aaron. I hope that's answered your question, mate, how I got started. And if you want any more questions, keep those questions come rolling in, guys. And fair chance, we'll see you guys out in the bush someday.